In less than 5 years, an astronaut will be stepping out on the moon to conduct man's first real exploration of our oldest satellite. It will have been a long voyage, carrying him far from his native land, planet Earth, into a strange and airless world. To survive, he must carry with him a bit of his familiar environment. How bioengineers are designing a spacesuit that will support astronauts on a round-trip lunar mission is our story today on Science Reporter.
I'm John Fitch, MIT science reporter, speaking to you from the moon, or at least a reasonable facsimile thereof. Actually, this simulated lunar landscape and this mock-up of the lunar excursion module are at the Manned Spacecraft Center in Houston, Texas, where engineers for the National Aeronautics and Space Administration are testing and evaluating the performance of the Apollo spacesuit. Actually, encapsulating a man into a suit that protects him from his environment at the same time gives him adequate life support is no very novel idea. Deep sea divers have depended on just such a solution for their descents into hostile ocean depths for decades. But as it applied to going up instead of going down, bioengineering got a much later start. It wasn't until World War II, when airplanes began nosing up to an airless 20,000 feet, that man found he was stretching beyond his natural reach. Breathing oxygen systems had to be devised. And not so many years later, men flying high-speed military planes at ever higher altitudes required anti-force and decompression protective systems. But today, as we move into the space age, these few problems seem relatively tame when they're measured against the support systems that man will require for lunar explorations. And to find out about these systems that will be used to protect men on the moon, we talked to Mr. Matthew Radnofsky, Assistant Chief of the Systems Development Branch here at the Manned Spacecraft Center.
John, before I show you the Apollo suits, I think you ought to see a couple of our earlier models. Here we have the Al Shepard's suit. This is the Mercury suit. Some of the interesting things about this suit are, note that there aren't any movable joints in this. No hard joints, no sealed rings or anything else. All mobility is achieved by very clever tailoring. You can see artificial brakes that have been sewn into the suit, realizing, of course, that this entire suit is simply but a bladder and that the restraining garment on the outside is what allows us to have mobility. Note in the elbows that we have no special joints, simply through the use of this unidirectional restraint, we're able to get a certain amount of mobility in the elbow.
I mean, if you didn't have that, you'd just sort of be out like a balloon?
Exactly. He would inflate and be almost rigid. He just about couldn't move at all. This green bottle is interesting. This is the way we originally sealed our helmets, the visor. See, this visor moves up and down, and by inflating a seal that's around the periphery of it, we achieve quite an excellent sealing of the entire suit.
Was this a really significant step forward in suits, or was it?
Not really, because this suit is really based on a developmental item that came from the Navy. This suit, as it stands, is very similar to the Mark IV Navy suit, which is used in conventional high-altitude aircraft with some minor modifications. In the hand, we've added a different kind of a palm restraint in here. But generally speaking, this suit doesn't differ significantly from the Department of Defense model. At the moment, he's simply being ventilated by a ventilator here, which keeps him cool until he would be attached up to the spacecraft itself.
What about the next step?
Well, the next step after the Mercury suit is the Gemini, and here we have.
Oh yes, this looks familiar.
This is a suit very similar to this, in fact, identical to this, was worn by White in his extravehicular excursions. This suit is covered with a material called Nomex, a very high-temperature nylon, which will withstand very high temperatures, about 700 degrees.
Is that because the sun's shining on him out in space?
Yes, although under these circumstances, this is primarily used in case the spacecraft itself got hot on the outside and he touched it,
yes.
he wouldn't be burnt. Also, it would protect the material underneath. Remember, the temperature outside can be up to about 250 degrees.
Well, now, this actually had to support life for him out there in space with nothing but an umbilical cord.
That's right. Under White's flight, or in White's flight, he received his oxygen through this port, through a long umbilical, and it was simply ventilated through him. Part of the flow rate of the oxygen came down over his visor, right here. And also, it might be interesting to note that he used very low flow rates because he didn't do that much work. He worked hard, but not much harder than he would normally, either inside a spacecraft or, for that matter, on Earth. The suit itself was equipped with glove lights. I don't know if this, yes, we have them shown here, which allowed the man inside the spacecraft, when he was inside the spacecraft, to scan his instruments without destroying dock adaptation when he was on the dock side of the Earth.
Well, now, what kind of a suit will they wear on the way to the moon?
On the way to the moon, inside the cabin, they probably won't need a suit at all. Let me come over here and show you what they will be wearing. Here's our constant wear garment.
Oh, really? This looks like a set of long underwear.
Well, that's just what it is. It's a modified set of long underwear used as a carrier for the electronic equipment for amplifying the signals that come out of the biosensors. Here's one of them is hanging out now. This is stuck right against the skin on the inside.
I see. Well, you mean this is all they have on inside the...
That's all they'll have on inside the command module. There's no reason for a suit. Remember, the main reason for a suit is to protect the man against low pressures, very low pressures, and at the same time, in the event of returning to the Earth, they would have to have environmental protection against the Earth's environment, hostile environment, in an emergency. But normally, under normal conditions, we don't expect them to wear a suit. A true shirt-sleeve environment is what we expect to achieve.
Well, then, once they do get to the moon, though, can they wear something sort of like the...
That's something
Gemini
else
suit?
again. There's a whole series of problems associated with the very hostile environment of the moon. For instance, we have to protect the man against the thermal loads that he will encounter in working very hard on the moon's surface. We have to protect him against the micrometeoroids, which are a constant source of potential danger, and also the secondary ejecta. These are the splashes of rocks that come up when a single meteoroid would hit the ground, let's say, close to the astronaut. We have to protect the man against the infrared and the ultraviolet radiations, which are not at all reduced by the lack of a atmosphere around the moon. We have to protect the man against the very hot and very cold temperatures associated with the surface of the moon. There are a whole series of them. We have to provide the man with a self-contained life support system. This life support system would include a whole series of items that we can discuss later, in which I can demonstrate to you quite easily.
Well, now, how are you going to solve all these problems?
Well, it's interesting. Here we have an indication of our...
hand with us.
Thank you. Here I have a mannequin dressed in a liquid cooling garment. If you'll note, the inside of this garment is covered with small tubules. These little tubules are filled with water. They are actually filled prior to flight. And by conduction, by causing a flow of water through the main branch and then returning it from this secondary branch, we have the ability to pick up heat directly from the skin, which keeps the man's temperature, skin temperature, down, and therefore stops him from perspiring.
Well, now, why can't you just use the regular air conditioning with
Normally
air?
you do. Normally you do simply blowing cold, dry air across the skin, and this is supposed to pick up all the perspiration associated with his work. But on the moon's surface, we expect the man to work very hard, extremely hard, almost twice the rate that he works on the surface of the Earth. As a result, his work rate is so high and his production of perspiration so great that we can't possibly pick it all up by the rate and the amount of gas available in the portable life support system.
I see. Well, now, does he wear this thing over that or under?
No,
or?
this is one immediately over a very light set of skivvies, or a light set of underwear, and directly under the pressure garment assembly, which we have over here.
Oh, could we see that? Oh,
Sure.
I'll get rid of this for you.
Thank you.
Oh, this does look quite a bit different from that Gemini suit that we saw.
It is. This is one of our earlier models of the Apollo suit. Note the joints particularly. This is a demonstration of a constant volume joint concept, which was submitted to us by one of the contractors who ultimately won the contract for the moon suit.
What do you mean by a constant volume joint?
Well, under this design, or in this design, the man can move, and when he moves, he doesn't disturb the column of air so that the internal pressure remains constant.
Oh, he isn't trying to squeeze air when he tries to move.
Exactly. If indeed he'd squeezed air, the force and work associated with doing that would almost prevent him from making any sort of motion. There's a great deal of work anyway, and we want to keep this to a minimum to make normal motion. He's not pressurized at this time, again, being ventilated simply to keep cool.
Could we see the actual Apollo suit?
Yes, let's take a look at the suit now.
Now, it seems to me he's walking a little more stiffly than the other
Well, this
fellow.
man is pressurized now. He has 3.7 psi. That is, there's almost a little over 3.5 pound differential pressure in his suit. It's slightly inflated, a little more than the previous suit.
Is it all right to...
Surely. But you can see that there is a considerable pressure associated with this mode of operation. The gases are ventilated. The incoming gases come in here, go up to his helmet, and then pass over the front to stop it from fogging. And a portion of the gases. The rest of the gases go down to the extremities, to his fingers and to his toes, and then come back, are collected, and come back through here.
When the astronauts leave the LEM for their exploration of the lunar surface, they'll strap on one of the most important parts of the extravehicular mobility unit, the Portable Life Support System, or PLSS. To learn about this unusual backpack, we visited the Hamilton Standard Division of United Aircraft in Windsor Locks, Connecticut, where the PLSS is manufactured. We talked with Mr. Ronald Lang, project manager for systems engineering.
Here in our space lab, I'd like to show you a full-scale mock-up of our portable life support system, or backpack. This, when used in conjunction with a pressure garment or spacesuit, gives a man all the required essentials for life support. As a matter of fact, it has everything that a spacecraft would have, with the exception of a propulsion system.
You don't have any rockets.
No, we use our legs for the propulsion. When a man wants to put this on in the vehicle, he disconnects the oxygen supply that goes to the suit, that's going and coming from the suit. He disconnects the water that goes to the liquid-cooled garment and back, and this is an emergency oxygen system that goes into the helmet, and then an electrical umbilical. And then to put on this backpack, he faces it in this fashion, turns around with the pressure suit on, and then connects these all to the proper connectors on the suit.
And this just has a harness that fits over his
It
shoulders?
just puts on a harness. It weighs about 65 Earth pounds.
That's pretty
but,
heavy.
But on the moon, it's only about 11, 12 pounds.
All right, because of the reduced gravity.
Right. Now, as a life support system, it contains all the basic ingredients for life support. Chief among these would be the supply and regulation of high-pressure oxygen to the suit. This oxygen bottle, sitting right here, contains a little bit over 1 pound of oxygen. It's at 850 psi, and it's regulated down to suit pressure of about 1/4 of what the pressure is in this room.
Would that be a little uncomfortable?
No, it wouldn't be, because it's pure oxygen, and as far as a man is concerned, his lungs see the same amount of oxygen as they do on Earth.
See.
Now, as the oxygen goes to the pressure suit and picks up carbon dioxide, it brings it back through these umbilicals to the backpack, and a backpack must remove that carbon dioxide. Otherwise, it'd be lethal to the man.
Really?
What we have to do then is use a chemical absorption bed. We have a contaminant removal cartridge that removes odors and carbon dioxide. Best to show you then a cartridge, which is a replaceable. We use one of these with each mission. It contains lithium hydroxide and activated charcoal, and it's completely consumed at the end of a mission.
Looks sort of like an oil filter.
Yes, it is. And incidentally, it gives off heat during this process. It adds heat to the system. And I should add that for that to be effective, the fact that it's sitting here by itself doesn't do us any good. We have to come up with a technique for getting the CO2-laden oxygen from the helmet to the backpack.
Right.
And for this reason, we use a fan. And the fan is this gadget right over here.
Oh, I see.
That is a fan, and the fan is powered by an electric motor. We also use a pump to push the liquid cooling, the water, to the liquid cooling garment and back. The pump sits right at this point, and it is also powered by an electric motor.
Well, that's right. To send the water over there and bring it back. And how do you cool the water once it's inside the backpack?
The water has picked up about 8 degrees when it goes through the liquid garment, and the oxygen is coming out at body temperature, and it has a lot of moisture in it. And this is all cooled in this box right here, which is a sublimator. Now, a sublimator is best described by referring back to the big snowbanks in Maine that seem to disappear even though the temperature never goes above 32 degrees. What happens here is that the snow goes directly from the ice phase to the gas phase, and it never melts in between. So the principle of operation here is exactly the same. What we do then is and let me show you, by the way, this is a sublimator, a complete and actual sublimator. The oxygen from the suit comes in through here and leaves here. The water comes in from here and leaves here. The water that we are turning into ice to sublime is coming in from here to here from a reservoir. And what it does is it becomes an ice layer in the layers in here, becomes ice, and to enable it to go from ice to gas, it must pull heat away from its surroundings. It cools this whole assembly down to almost 32 degrees. In fact, the ice is at 32 degrees. And in so doing, the oxygen and the water that go through here are cooled down to the levels that we have to have.
That is very interesting.
Well, we have other things that are in this backpack that are not life support elements per se. Chief among these are communication. We have a communication subsystem which sits right on top of the sublimator and is cooled by it. This is the antenna, and this is the connection here.
So that he can talk back to the LEM?
Exactly. He could talk back to the LEM, or he could talk to the Earth via the LEM.
A little radio station.
That is a complete transmitter and receiver. I'd like to show you a component there. This is the communication system.
It is really small, isn't it?
It's very small and very compact. And it has, in addition to voice, it has 7 channels of information that are continuously telemetered. If the man so desires, he can shut off the telemetry. It monitors the performance and gives us an EKG, an electrocardiogram.
Now, just thinking that all these things seem to run on electricity, how do you power all of this for 4 hours?
Well, we power the electric motors and the communication system with a battery, a silver zinc battery, which is also a one-shot deal. We have as many batteries. The battery goes right in here at this point. And there are as many batteries as we're going to run missions. It's 5 pounds, and it's designed with the launch vibrations in the vehicle from Cape Kennedy in mind. It's a very rugged, reliable battery.
And that's enough to run this for 4 hours?
It's enough to run this for 4 hours. Yes, it is. The other thing that I'd like to mention is failure detection. For us to be able to run a successful mission, we must feel confident that we could bring the man back in the event of a failure. And the astronaut will have on here various systems to tell him that he's got problems, if he in fact does. 2 of these will be a low-pressure warning device, which will trigger an audible warning buzzer if the suit pressure goes below 3.2 psi.
How would that happen?
If we had a leak in the system, or if for some reason we stopped supplying oxygen, the pressure would begin to decay. The other thing that we would like to tell him about is if we're using up too much oxygen. We have a flow warning buzzer that tells him, you're using your oxygen too fast. Do something.
Well, if he does get into one of these serious problems, how's he going to get back when he's wandering around in the moon?
He has an emergency mode of operation. He immediately cuts in his emergency oxygen system, which is built onto here for expressly that purpose. The emergency oxygen system is a toroidal, 7,500 pound per square inch supply that contains only 0.2 of a pound of oxygen. And when used in conjunction with the main supply, can give us emergency ventilation and purging of the helmet area, even though the fan fails. Now that thing will go in this area up against the backpack. Another emergency system is the communication. We have a redundant communication system.
To see the rest of the spacesuit to be worn on the moon, we talked again with Mr. Matthew Radnofsky at the Manned Spacecraft Center in Houston. This white garment, what is that for? Do you wear that
This is his thermal meteoroid garment. It's made up into layers. These are the layers of material. The first layer is a Nomex cloth. This whole garment provides protection against radiant energy impinging on the suit from the sun and also reflected from the moon, and also protects them against meteoroids. This is a most interesting insulation. This insulation only works in a vacuum. It's very similar to the material that we have in a thermos bottle on Earth. It's as though the man were completely enclosed in a thermos jug.
There's so many layers.
It consists of some 7 or 8 layers of aluminized mylar with a Dacron scrim, and then covered with the abrasive-resistant Nomex material that we've talked about before, and also has this felt layer, this nylon felt, which provides the bumper protection against the meteoroids that we also discussed. For instance, on the lunar surface, we have meteoroids, micrometeoroids, which are constantly hitting the moon. Even if they don't hit the man or only hit close to the man, they travel at immense speeds, something like 30,000 feet per second or higher. And as they hit the moon, they send off showers of rocks, which also have high energies associated with them. And they themselves, traveling at very high speeds, could injure the man were it not for the protection afforded by this soft layer.
Now, how big are these micrometeoroids?
They're not large. They run from 5 micron in diameter upwards.
So like a little speck of dust, isn't it?
Yeah, you can't see them actually. And as I said before, they run something like 10 times the speed of a bullet.
I see. So they have a lot of energy, even though they are
have a great
small.
deal of energy. They are so fast that one could possibly never know it again either.
I see. These are very unusual shoes that he has on top of his regular boots.
Note that this portion of the suit provides protection against radiant energy. The boots provide protection against conductive heat loss or gain through the soles of the shoes.
You mean the surface of the moon could actually be hot to touch?
The surface of the moon will probably range between plus 250 degrees and minus 250 degrees. And the heat loss through the boot soles could be tremendous. Then, of course, we have our visors, and these give protection against both ultraviolet and infrared rays resulting from the lack of an atmosphere around the moon. Normally on Earth we have an atmosphere which filters out to a great degree the harmful radiations from the sun when they are intense. On the moon we have no such cover, and we have to provide it. If it weren't there, the man would become blind, he'd have retinal burns and so forth. He must have this kind of protection.
These fold down over his regular
These come down over
faceplate?
his visor. The one is for the infrared and the other one for the ultraviolet. They also provide visual protection in the visual range, the visible range.
So like big sunglasses.
Like big sunglasses, exactly.
But with all of this material on, I wonder how he can do anything but just sort of stump around a little bit.
He actually can do quite a bit. Do you want to show him some of the exercises? He's pressurized here, 3.5, 3.7 pounds. He can do quite a bit.
That's very interesting. Well, that's fine on here on the Earth, but is it the same if he was up on the moon?
It wouldn't be on the same on the moon. No, on Earth, where this test was just run, we're at 1G. But it really, in order to determine how much effort is associated with working on the lunar surface, we must somehow simulate the lunar gravity. The lunar gravity being approximately 1/6 that of the the Earth. Now we have 3 ways of achieving this. The first is a 1/6G simulator, which we've had fabricated here. It is a series of levers counterbalanced with weights, with a man hanging on one end of it. He's like one portion of a giant mobile. And by counterbalancing and overweighting one side, we can give him the effect of 1/6G. However, there's a great deal of mass and inertia associated with this rig. It weighs several tons, and in order to overcome this, we use several ropes and men on the end of them so that it won't take over from the man. Then there's a second one, and this is the Langley simulator, where a large pendulum, a very long pendulum, is attached to the man sideways, who attempts to walk as though he were walking along the side of a building. He's held by 6 or 8 tethers from various points of articulation on his body. In this manner, we can vary the point or pivot of the pendulum so as to simulate, again, 1/6G angles. But probably the best way of doing it is in the KC-135 aircraft, which through flying parabolic arcs can simulate between 35 and 40 seconds in duration 1/6G. And we've done most of our tests, our most effective tests are done at altitude in the KC-135 craft. Now, these are supplied to us by the Air Force.
But when you put all this together, what does a spacesuit nowadays cost?
Specifically, the Mercury spacesuit ran between $6,000 and $7,000. The Gemini spacecraft spacesuit will run ultimately approximately $35,000, and the Apollo suit, when it is complete on a unit basis, will run somewhere around $150,000, including the portable life support system.
I see. Well, do you feel that this Apollo suit is the ultimate in spacesuits?
No. There is another suit system that's being developed, undergoing the same series of tests that have been imposed on the other suits. And this is a hard suit. This suit is fabricated of aluminum and honeycomb.
So like a suit of armor, then?
It's indeed a suit of armor, with the exception of the visor, which is a plastic. The joints are covered with cloth just for purposes of protection, keeping dust and so forth out of them. But many of us feel that a suit of this type is the ultimate in lunar exploration.
The extravehicular mobility unit for Project Apollo is, as we've seen, not the final word in spacesuits. Research is already underway on even more advanced systems. But no matter what these systems may look like, they will certainly benefit from the experience gained with Apollo's EMU. Today, we visited the Manned Spacecraft Center in Houston, Texas. I'm John Fitch, MIT science reporter.
Hello, everybody. I'm Skip Alsheimer. Welcome to the AV Geeks Lunchtime Streaming Show. It is officially fall, and it's really nice outside, so I actually have windows open in the basement. I'm trying to air out this musty place. This is my favorite season, and it's not just because it's my birthday in this season, but everything is just crisp and awesome. So that last film was suited for space and is part of the Science Reporter series that MIT did. And I have a couple of films from that series. It is what we call a kinescope. And what a kinescope is basically they would air this on television, broadcast it live, but they would also have a monitor and it'd have a film camera, and the audio would go into the film camera, to Auricon or something like that, and they would shoot off the screen. So this is very similar to what the Honeymooners, the early episodes of the Honeymooners, where you can see evidence of like the monitor, the cathode ray tube. With the early honeymooners, it was a situation to where, like, if it was something bright, everything would be dark around it because of the way that the CRT was at that point. And so you have this weird kind of black halo around Jackie Gleason when he's speaking and freaking out. In this case, you could see occasionally a moire pattern, like a weird little, like, kind of, like, if you take two screens, you put them together, you'll see this weird kind of pattern. And occasionally little video glitches. And what's interesting about this is that they did the program. Some of it was shot on film, so they showed it on film via a film chain, which was the opposite of a kinescope, which is basically you have a projector that has a 5-bladed shutter that's in sync with the sync of the camera, so that you get you get little to no flicker. So they would show the film through the camera. That would go into the mixing board, and then they would mix back and forth between live and filmed material, back and forth. And then that would go to a kinescope. So a very elaborate process, maybe more than you really wanted to know. But yeah, that's what AV Geeks is all about, geeking out with the audiovisual materials. This is a film that I haven't really seen coming up. It's called Hand in Hand. It's by the American Junior Red Cross. And I'm sure it's about, maybe it's about first aid. I don't know. Maybe it's fundraising. Here we go.
An orchestra as there isn't hearing it. Somehow a great orchestra is like this great democratic nation of ours. Both are made up of individuals. One produces the miracle of sound, the other voices the symphony of a free people living in harmony amid a discordant world. Each must work with mind and heart and hand, and all must work together. They're learning to create something worthwhile, to do something with their hands. They're learning to play together, to think together, to work together as one. Training. That's what does it. And training starts in the school each day in the good American way. How you boys and girls safeguard that liberty is your responsibility. That's where the American Junior Red Cross comes into the picture. If every one of our more than 30 million school children will learn to work and build for the good of all, we'll have just about the greatest creative force this country of ours ever has known. As a member of the Junior Red Cross, you have many opportunities to put your learning to work for your town, your country, and people everywhere. Some of you already know how the Junior Red Cross National Children's Fund works. Here is cooperation to do something worthwhile. Take Marshall Crozier. Marshall says he'll pledge $1 to help boys and girls whose homes have been destroyed by war. Young Marshall washed many windows to earn that dollar. Paul Strong says he'll earn $2. Paul knows that in all the countries of our allies, other boys need a helping hand. So Paul's making his money on a paper route. That's what the Junior Red Cross teaches. Work, earning, responsibility, sharing. Yes, when a boy will pledge 75 cents to the National Children's Fund, then go out and wash dogs to earn the money, he has the makings of a mighty fine citizen. If all the boys and girls in America could visit this old English country home, a nursery established by the American Junior Red Cross, they'd be more than repaid for their work. Little ones, lives disrupted, homes blasted by bombs. The National Children's Fund also helps unfortunate infants in many other war-stricken countries. It provides shoes and warm clothing to protect thousands of brave families of our allies from storm and cold. Last year, Red Cross Junior members packed 100,000 holiday gift boxes for children in England, in Iceland, in South and Central America. Volunteer workers in local Red Cross chapters see to it that each package is properly packed and shipped on time. Greetings from the Junior Red Cross of America to the courageous children in war areas. Comfort and cheer for youngsters deprived of the warmth and affection they once knew in their own homes. Willing hands, making correspondence albums with pictures and letters to send to children here and in other lands. These albums describe different sections of our country. They're made by boys and girls so that others may know what kind of people we are and the kind of land in which we live. In turn, they receive albums from children of other countries, a help toward better world understanding. Today, with wartime shortages and food rationing, learning to cook is a most important part of the school course, and right in line with the Junior Red Cross program. Through Red Cross nutrition courses, girls learn how to prepare proper foods and their values. Red Cross home nursing. Here's a class making paper containers for the sick room. Learning to prevent the spread of disease is another example of schoolwork and Junior Red Cross work going hand in hand. The worthwhile things Sister learns, nutrition, home nursing, doing useful services with one's hands, are mighty helpful when sickness comes. And so many doctors and nurses are away at war. Let's listen to a report from a Junior Red Cross council.
Our high school art class turned out its quota of posters to aid the War Bond campaign and the local Junior Red Cross Service Fund. We also made posters for our sock hop, organized to raise funds to carry on our service program. The dance was a huge success. Everybody had a wonderful time. We made enough for our service fund to finance most of our wartime activities. Lamps for Army and Navy recreation rooms, outfitted by the Red Cross, are being made by the boys in the woodworking class. We put our chapter's name on every article, so our soldiers will know we're working for them. The shop classes are also making checkerboards and other games. Letters from commanding officers and Red Cross field directors keep asking for more games for men in the service. We cannot help but feel proud that we are able to contribute some small bit of comfort to those who give so much for us. The boys make ash stands from the wood bought with our service fund. Dick had promised me an ash stand for Dad, but Dick says Dad will have to get along for the duration with what he has. Dick's right. These are for our armed forces. They're entitled to all we can give them, and more. Some of the fellows make ping-pong tables, and from what the Red Cross hospital workers tell us, those tables give the boys lots of fun. Now for the girls. The sewing classes are eagerly making kit bags, which the Red Cross furnishes to the soldiers going overseas. These kit bags have been carried to every war front. Our bicycle corps delivers them to the local chapter house. Volunteers fill them with razor blades, playing cards, cigarettes, and many needed articles. We know from letters we've had how grateful, how happy our soldiers, sailors, and Marines are to receive these kits. Whatever we are asked to send is needed. After all, it does remind them of home.
This doesn't begin to tell all the things the Junior Red Cross does or can do. Between the junior and senior members of the American Red Cross, 32 million strong, there is real partnership, working together, hand in war and in peace. In small, modest schools in far-off corners of the country, in schools of great cities, in immense halls of learning from coast to coast, more than 17 million members of the American Junior Red Cross, from kindergarten through high school, have united in this great service to others, future of our country. Our destiny depends upon their training and upon their ideals for a world of peace and better understanding.
Yeah, so I was a little bit right. Mostly about getting membership in the Junior American Red Cross and about fundraising. Having kids raise money for these programs. So it's kind of interesting. There was a lot of these community-based movements. There was, I think it was the Red Feather or Blue Feather. That was an organization, the Community Chest, which you might remember from Monopoly. Community Chest was usually a local or regional place that people would donate money to that would support these programs, including helping people that were burned out of their house, which is what the Red Cross would do, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, etc. And then that kind of morphed into the United Way. So, this idea of gathering money in your community and raising money for these different causes is definitely something that's been around for a while, at least 100 years. So, yeah, I had not seen that film before, but it's pretty great. Pretty great. Okay. This next film is about how to take care of your turtle. It's Turtle Care of a Pet.
In ponds and rivers, small turtles may often be found. Turtles, like this one, are called sliders or red ears. They make good pets. They are gentle animals, interesting to watch, and easy to care for. To keep a red-eared turtle as a pet, learn all you can about it. The best way to learn to care for any animal is to find out how it takes care of itself. Let's see how a red-eared turtle lives in its natural home. A red-eared turtle spends most of its time underwater, where it looks for food. It will eat almost anything it finds in the pond: plants, small fish, tadpoles, worms, and insects. This one is trying to catch a pill bug. Sometimes two turtles will try to eat the same food. A turtle eats underwater, but after it eats, it usually swims to the surface for fresh air and sunlight. All turtles breathe air, just as we do. A turtle needs sunlight. The sun warms its body, helping it digest its food. If you know how a turtle lives, you will be better able to care for one. To keep one as a pet, a place as much as possible like its natural home should be made for it. An aquarium or large bowl will do. A turtle needs a high place like this rock, so it can leave the water when it wishes. Indoors, a small light, about a foot from the turtle, will warm it, helping to take the place of the sun. A turtle will stay healthy if it is properly cared for. It needs plenty of clean water, as it would have in its natural home. It needs food as much as possible like its natural food. Live food, like this mealworm, is best for a turtle. If live food is not available, a good dried food, made of different kinds of insects and green plants, will do. Since a turtle will not overeat, it may be given all the food it will take. However, leftover food will spoil the water in which the turtle lives. To keep the water clean, change it every few days. After its meal, a turtle usually crawls out of the water to digest its food and to rest. Now that our turtle has a good home and has been well fed, we can look at it closely. Notice the turtle's eye. Each eye has a stripe running through it. When it takes a nap, it usually pulls itself inside its shell and closes both eyes. But with one eye closed and one eye open. A turtle's ears cannot be seen. They are covered by skin. However, the red patches on the side of its head locate the ears and give it its common name, red-eared turtle. A turtle breathes through two small holes. It has no teeth. It bites off food with the hard edge of its mouth. A turtle's shell is part of its body, and a turtle can never leave it. It grows as the turtle grows. The upper and lower parts of the shell are joined on each side. The tough, hard shell protects the turtle from harm. When frightened, it can pull itself into its shell. The shell should never be painted, because paint may injure it, preventing it from growing properly, and the turtle may die. A turtle's feet are flat and paddle-like. They help it swim. The skin on its legs is covered with hard scales. The scales protect the legs just as the shell protects the body. A turtle has a very small tail. If you keep any animal as a pet, learn all you can about it. The more you know about it, the more interesting you will find it, and the more you will enjoy it. The little red ear, or slider, is a good pet, and it is easy to care for. To care for it properly, give it plenty of clean water, just as it would have in its natural home. Give it food as much as possible like its natural food. Give it a place where it can crawl out of the water, just as it would have in its natural home. A pet should be properly cared for. The best way to find out how to properly take care of any animal is to find out how it takes care of itself.
That just kind of abruptly ended. Over my lifespan, over the years, I was helping rehabilitate turtles who had been hit by cars, and so we would nurse them back to health, then release them in the wild. More recently, we live near two little lakes, and there's a road that goes in between, and there are turtles that are constantly going across to their peril. Some of them do not make it. But every time we go past, we drive slowly, and I have moved many turtles in the direction they want to go across the street, including a 1.5 foot diameter snapping turtle. That was interesting 10 minutes or so. Anyways, hey, I want to say thank you for buying coffee. Coffee is a great way to support AV Geeks because it directly goes from you to making coffee into my bloodstream. So it is a way to directly get this going. Sometimes it stalls, and caffeine is the one drug that seems to do the trick. So you can buy coffee. Also, you can just hit like and subscribe and tell people about what we do. So, because every day we learn something new. This next film is called Only Benjy Knows. And it actually comes with little notes in here and a program guide, which is great. So the objectives of this, before we watch it, I won't normally do this, but here's the objectives. To portray conflict situations commonly experienced by children, to provide a basis for an objective discussion of alternative solutions, to encourage children to relate their own experiences to one in the film by role-playing or other follow-up activities, to help children understand that their own feelings are common to other children, and even to many adults. To promote development and language facility, both spoken and written. Wow, yeah. Okay, and this one actually has the dialogue right here. So, all right, here's Only Benjy Knows, Should He Tell?
Well, they're okay, I guess. That one, that's the good, Frankie. I like whippersnappers are good. Oh, they are? Yes, they are. Fatliner's good. I don't know about that, though. Slicky's good, though. Hey, guys. Hi. Oh, hi. Where are you going? I gotta get some school supplies. So what? We're gonna... So what? Yeah.
Okay, Benjy, come on. Let's get inside.
We'll come with you. Ooh, I get some of these. Over here. Oh, I want raspberry. Yeah, no, raspberry's delicious. Real good. Oh, yeah. Hey, Ben, what you gonna get? What are you gonna get? Remember me? Oh, I don't know. Let's go look at the toys. I wouldn't need notebooks and oh, look at this. Look at this. Isn't it neat? Look at these. Hi. Hey, look at those up there. And look at those matchbox. Super Charger spread. And over here, Charger race set. And over here. Those are the best. Oh, you guys, I gotta go now.
Yes, ma'am. May I help you?
I think that's all.
Here's school things.
Okay, honey. Did you get everything you need?
Yeah.
Oh, Benjy, go get some toothpaste.
Oh, okay.
Thank you, honey. Benjy, is there anything wrong?
No, nothing.
You sure?
Mm-hmm.
It's been a nice day today, hasn't it?
It sure has, but I think it's turning cold.
See you outside then.
That was short. So here are some activities that we can do after watching the film to kind of fill out the rest of the school day or the class time. Let children act out their own interpretations of the story, ending by role-playing, different story ending, by role-playing the characters in the film. Only volunteers should be given parts. After each performance, encourage but don't force the children to discuss their interpretations. So don't pick the kids that are supposed to be shoplifting. Let them step up. Parents and teachers and friends may have different of opinion about what Benjy should do under the circumstances. Ask children to interview people they know until they get 3 diverse opinions, then write a story ending that corresponds with each. After the discussion and role-playing, it should be possible to integrate the different interpretations into a workable code of conduct with regard to tattling in school. This may be done by a committee of whole of the whole or by a rules committee elected by the class. Code of conduct regarding tattling. Really fascinating. I mean, and so most educational films that were distributed to schools came with a teacher's guide. The vast majority of them had this. Now, by the time I get the films, they don't necessarily have them. And so sometimes I have to guess what the message is and what they're trying to do. But it's gotten to the point where I can pretty much figure out what is compelling about the film and why they would show it and how they would talk about it. But this is the idea. You wouldn't just show the film and then say, all right, now put your heads on your desks. You would actually engage with the class and use it as a stepping stone to talk about, something in the class. And you would have various activities that the kids would do, et cetera, et cetera. Now, unfortunately, most teachers wouldn't do that. In fact, most substitute teachers wouldn't do that at all. They would come in and they would pick a film from the library and they would show it, and then they would say, okay, now it's quiet time. And, you hang out until the rest of the period. You wouldn't have an opportunity to really sit and discuss what you saw. So, there you go. That's the deal with educational films. Let's see. What do we got here? What time is it? This one's really interesting. So I got a big series of civil defense films from Texas Archive, the Moving Image. They got rid of all their stuff that wasn't Texas related, and so I had them shipped to me. It took a couple of years, actually, because they sat in somebody's basement for a while. And so this is a variety of different films that I have that talk about public shelter life. Like the idea that you would be working downtown or shopping downtown, not at your house, and the air raid sirens would go off and you would rush into your closest fallout shelter, and you'd be there with a bunch of strangers. And you might not be there with your family. And so you'd have to be there, if there was an atomic attack, potentially you'd have to be there for 2 weeks until the fallout dissipated, or the half-life of the fallout got to the point where it wasn't really dangerous anymore. 2 weeks, that's interesting. So a lot of these deal with the idea that you're going to be stuck with a bunch of people you don't know in a shelter, and you're going to be fearing for the life of your family who are not there. Like the kids, they might be at school. The wife, who knows where she's going to be? She might be at the house. We don't know. And there's not cell phones. And likely telephones would probably be knocked out. So this is a film, it's called Information Program in Public Shelters. And so the idea with this is that a shelter, I can't remember what the term is, but basically the person who's in charge of running the shelter, this would be something that they would watch. And this deals with how information is given out in the shelter, because you want to be very official, and you also don't want to cause panic, because panic means that people are going to freak out and leave the shelter, compromise the shelter. So here we go. Information public program in public shelters.
These people are in a public shelter. An enemy attack has just occurred. The first hours of shelter occupation are characterized by confusion, rumors, noise. Small groups gather. They discuss their situation, their new and strange location. This, however, is not the case with all shelter occupants. Some withdraw, freeze, become a member of no group. But there is one common value, one pervading thought: self-preservation, self-protection, self. Social values must return before individuals will function as a group. Luckily, the needs to achieve this are few: organization, leadership, recreation, training, empathy with fellow shelter occupants. But these needs are led by the need for information. The quality of the shelter's information program will have a great effect on the success of the survival effort.
Your attention, please. Your attention, please.
All right, quiet down, please. Come on, hold it down. Let's listen to this.
This is Governor Haynes. This is an official announcement. The nation has sustained a nuclear attack. Luckily, only a few of our cities have been hit, and our citizens are now entering into shelters. If we stay in our shelters, we will survive. Your local authorities will give you reports as they are received. In the meantime, remember, stay in your shelter.
Positive information is reassuring. To get it, a radio is desirable. Providing shelters with radios is the responsibility of the community. But although it gives the big picture, the radio is an impersonal thing. What about our town, our neighborhood, our home?
May I have your attention, please?
Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention for just a moment?
You've heard our governor. We have other information that there's been no heavy damage in our area. So if some of your family is not in this shelter, be reassured. Fill out these registration forms. It'll help us to locate your families. That's all.
Evidence of informed leadership helps to establish control of the shelter quickly and to hold it. A major source of information for management is the Control Center. The Control Center provides the manager with operations information not given over the radio. Some of this operations information may also be used as general information to further inform the shelter occupants at the discretion of the manager. Because information is so important, the shelter's procedure for handling it should be organized in an information program and made a part of the shelter operations plan. It should contain instructions to help others conduct the information program even if the manager and his staff don't make it to their shelter. The information program requires capable personnel to form an information team. Its leader could be a newsman or public relations expert, an educator or the like. The number and qualifications of his assistants will vary with the size and layout of the shelter. All should be chosen for their understanding of people. Once he feels safe in a well-managed shelter, a shelter occupant's concern for self quickly gives way to concern about his immediate family. The information team should be prepared to cope with this demanding need.
Your attention, please.
We're in contact with Control Center downtown. They report that all shelters in Fairview have been occupied according to plan. All children have gone safely into their school shelters. They urge that we stay in our shelter.
Reassuring news about family can help draw distraught individuals out of themselves. Supplying information helps them start back to a normal condition of social awareness and responsibility. They will form spontaneous groups to talk out the situation, relieving pressure. But these groups lack purpose and organization. They must be given more information to help management build a close-knit shelter society for survival. As soon as possible, post a public announcement schedule. List the times that you intend to announce news from both outside and inside the shelter. This is similar to regular newscasts. It will give shelter occupants regular high points to look forward to. Urgent announcements, of course, should be made immediately. Just as in normal times, issuing the news is a critical responsibility of trust. The timely release of news and the preparation of the occupants to accept bad news when necessary are the responsibility of the shelter manager and his staff.
Your attention, please. Your attention, please. As we expected, fallout is moving over the city. Radiation levels have not been determined as yet.
Another information problem concerns the issuance of bad news. The public has as much right to know the unpleasant as the cheerful. Knowing just how to deliver it and how to cope with possible reaction is the essence of a good information program. If the manager believes that the effect on morale is serious, he must be prepared to offset this with positive instructions and information. The manner in which information is given is extremely important. Calmly rather than excitedly. Authoritative rather than confused. Giving both good news and bad. Keeping shelter occupants informed of outside events. Asking for ideas. Confiding serious problems. Will gradually draw individuals into a group with a growing morale and a willingness to cooperate. But as the group spirit develops, there will be ever-present forces that tend to divide it again. One of these is a familiar information problem, false rumors.
There's a rumor going around. Some of them want to sleep in the other half of the room tonight because they say there's less radiation over there.
Well, that figures. All of them tried to sleep over here last night. The rumor then was that only this end of the shelter was safe.
The rumors are canceling each other out.
All right, let's have Charlie set up a demonstration to prove that both rumors are just scuttlebutt. When they have the correct information, we won't have a problem.
After some time, there will be opportunities to use the program and communications facilities to help improve morale. There may be time to transmit information that will have a personal meaning to shelter occupants, perhaps to confirm the good health of family members who are in other shelters. Important morale-boosting information of this sort should be compiled and transmitted during the slack hours to avoid confusing or delaying important official operations and general messages. Another information technique that helps increase the group spirit is to share personal news with the whole shelter. There will be many opportunities.
Well, that about wraps it up for now. If there's anyone who has anything that he'd like... Well, looks like we do have another bit of news. The Webbers have an anniversary today. Their 30th.
When the routine of existence has at last been established in the shelter and news becomes repetitious, life may become boring. Shelter occupants will ask, what do we do now? The information program should include ways to help solve the problem. It's comparatively easy to handle in individuals. Give them responsibilities. But for the group as a whole, the answer is organized instruction to further inform and orient the shelter occupants. The program should include talks on preserving health, discussion periods, safety instruction, special activities for adults and children, and other activities that underscore the need for tolerance, cooperation, and submergence of personal interest for the good of the group. If possible, personnel needed to direct these activities should be designated pre-attack from the community ranks of trained specialists. If more are required, they can be selected with the help of the registration forms from among the shelter occupants, school teachers, recreation and athletic directors, professional people, and church leaders. The total effect of their instruction should be to improve shelter life and to prepare survivors for the post-shelter world. This, indeed, will be an important part of the information program, preparing for the post-shelter world. On those who survive will fall a great responsibility, reestablishing a normal way of life. How well that is achieved will be influenced by the quality of instruction provided in public shelters. So, in brief, the Shelter Information Program informs, diverts, and orients shelter occupants during the long days of confinement. It produces what is vital to shelter functioning and management, an informed population. And it does something more.
Thank you, Doctor. And now, finally, to the matter that we've all been thinking about. Just when can we all leave the shelter? It has been several days. Radiation fallout has decayed, but there still is some radiation present. So as you know, the staff does not believe that anyone should go out. But some of you do. Now again, you realize that we don't want to hold anyone in the shelter against his will. So before you make your final decision, it might be wise to hear how some of the others feel.
Can I say something?
Well, yes, of course, Mr. Mills. Go ahead.
Well, I only got on the information team pretty recently. To be honest with all of you, maybe I just got on any team pretty recently. What I mean is, when I got here right after, I was kind of shook. I guess we all were. I didn't know what was happening. I felt closed in. I know none of us did at first, but it really got to me. Sure helped finding out about the kids, though. I got a couple myself, and that things were being taken care of. Look, what I really want to say is I want to go along with whatever these people, the manager and the staff, say. We can make a big mistake by going out there.
Here is the something extra that a good information program gives. It helps replace self-concern and disorientation with concern for others, interest in the group, responsibility. More than individuals will survive in the fallout shelter. With a good program, society will survive too.
So together we will get through this. Together we will get through this. Together we will get through this. That's what a lot of civil defense films are about, is the fact that we're all in this together, and it's together that we will get through this. So there's the difference between what's being said then and what's being said now. And so I tend to go with what was being said in the past, with together. Cooperation, supporting each other, that's what's going to get us through this. So there's my soapbox. Got one more film coming up. I haven't seen this one, and this is really surprising. There's a series called Health that Encyclopedia Britannica came out with in the early 70s, like 71, 72, 73. Toothache of a Clown is part of that, and that's a whacked out film about taking care of your teeth. Also, Dirt Witch Cleans Up is part of that, and that is also a whacked out film about keeping clean. So this one's called Eye Care Fantasy, and I hope that this is equally whacked out. So here it is, Eye Care Fantasy. Enjoy.
You all have beautiful eyes, really. Very beautiful eyes. And they're one of the most important parts of your body. Without them, you couldn't see all the beauty and the wonder of the whole world. The sky, the trees, people, cities. Especially the cities. Your eyes are most important to you there. It's important for you to be able to read signs like these. Your eyes help you to do many things. In fact, everything you do, you use your eyes to do, from the time you get up in the morning to the time you go to bed at night. Let me show you. You shouldn't rub your eyes too much.
Why not?
Because your eyes are very delicate and you can hurt their surfaces by rubbing them. See how careful that cameraman is with his lens? Well, that lens is 1,000 times sturdier than your eyes are. That's just how delicate they are, and that's why you have to be so careful with them. What's wrong?
I have something in my eye.
Come with me. The safest way to remove a speck from your eye is to rinse it under cool running water. Now come on, put your hand down here and then put your face all the way down to it. Try to blink it out. Is it gone?
Yep.
There are hundreds of different ways people see the world. Because your eyes are so complex, if just one little tiny thing is wrong, your whole vision could be thrown off. This is called peripheral or side vision. It means that you can't see things in the center very clearly. This is called central or tunnel vision. You can only see things in the center clearly. This is what is called nearsightedness. It means that you can't see things in the distance very well. This is what the world looks like if you're farsighted. If everything was dark, you wouldn't be able to see anything at all. But when there is light, you can see. The light goes through the lens of your eye and focuses an image on the back of your eye on a place called the retina. In some people's eyes, the light isn't focused on the right place. The light is focused here instead of on the retina. They need glasses. See why? Glasses can focus the light on the right place and bring everything back into focus, like this. There are glasses for each of these kinds of vision. Glasses are very important.
Tim, would you please spell the second word from the top?
I can't see it too well.
Is something wrong with your eyes?
I don't know. Maybe.
May I take him to see an eye doctor?
You certainly may.
Doctor, this boy can't see too well.
All right, let's take a look at the problem. Tim, is the blackboard easy for you to read or difficult?
Difficult.
Is your reading easy or difficult?
Easy.
Okay, so it's only the blackboard that's giving you trouble. Let's take a look. Look at the chart. Now I'm going to look inside your eye. Keep looking at the chart. Tim, I want you to continue looking through this instrument while we shine the light into your eyes. Is it getting easier to read for you?
Yes.
Very good. Now let's block off the right eye and work on the left. Is the chart getting easier to read again?
Yes.
Fairly good there for you?
Yes.
And this is about the best there.
Yes.
And with both eyes open, the chart is easy for you to read.
Yes.
Here's the prescription for his glasses.
I'll fill it immediately. What kind of rims would you like?
Rims? You see things far away.
Good. When you're young, it's often hard to tell if you need glasses or not. But if you are getting headaches and can't see too well, or don't feel good when you try to see something, Tell your teacher or your parents. You may need glasses. I do, for reading. I couldn't read a thing without them. Of course, the best thing you can do for your eyes, after keeping them open all day, is to give them a rest at night, and close them, and go to sleep.
Oh yeah, ignore that. So that was not as wacky as the other films, but there's other films that all take place outdoors. Even Toothache of a Clown, there's a portion of it that totally takes place outdoors with kids dressed as giant teeth. Have I shown that? If I haven't shown that, I need to at some point. I feel like I have, because it's so good. Definitely have shown Health Witch, or Dirt Witch. Yeah, I have shown. Back in March, early on, I showed Toothache of a Clown, and I have shown Dirt Witch as well. But, yeah, I want to see if I can find others in that series. There's a series called Health Wise that came out in the late 70s. Not as good. Not as good. This is pretty great. Thanks so much, guys, for tuning in today. If you like what you saw, you can hit like or subscribe. Buy me coffee. You can go to avgeeks.com and see other things that we've done. And also, there's an opportunity to buy DVDs there. I think it's voter registration time. Everybody needs to get registered to vote and vote. It's a big pain in the butt. It always is. It seems like all our civic duties are always a big pain in the butt, whether it's paying taxes, whether it's jury duty, whether it's voting. It's all to contribute to our society. It's a pain, which is why people don't like doing it. So please vote. Especially pay attention to your local elections and your Senate and your House of Representatives. Even the cities, because all that is becoming very, very important nowadays. Is good leadership is really important. I'm not going to tell you who to vote for. I am not voting for Trump. If you hadn't guessed, I'm not going to do it. And I would love it if none of you did, but that's okay. If you do, you have a strong feeling why. I'm not going to argue with you, but it's not going to happen. I was a Bernie guy, by the way, because Bernie Sanders used to run a film strip company, and I mean, come on, he used to run a film strip company. So there's other reasons I vote for him, but whatever. Anyways, enough about politics. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Very much appreciate your comments and seeing your faces, quote unquote, every day. Take care of yourself. Please rewind and love each other. And we will see you again tomorrow, 1 o'clock. Everybody take care.